When it comes to giants in the Bible, did they tell you a fable? Are they misleading you on purpose? I believe they are. We need to get the correct interpretation of what a giant is because the word giant is really not in the Bible. The word is Nephilim or Gabor. These are just mighty men on the earth. But I know the fame of mythology and they want to tell you about creatures of ridiculous height. But let's look at Goliath because everybody, in Sunday schools taught Goliath was, almost 10 feet tall. But is that what the Bible says? Do you ever read and see what the Bible says about Goliath? You'll be amazed here because if you look at here, now let's go here. It says here, and there went a champion. Now, it didn't say a giant. It's calling him a champion out of the camp of the Philistines. So who are the Philistines? These are men. Okay, one of them was named Goliath, and Goliath, whose height was 6 cubits and a span. Okay, now what is 6 cubits in the span? They want to tell you that's 9 feet 9 inches. But where did Okay, so this is in the King James version, and it has this height. And you say, oh wow, look, yeah, he was 9 feet tall, and that's the end of the story. But why did they put that there? Why did they put that there? Could that be wrong? Could that be wrong? Because if you don't read the King James version and you read other books, it's not 6 cubits in the span, it's 4 cubits in the span, which is 6 foot 9 inches. Pretty much like the height of LeBron James. So now let's look at 4 cubits in a span. Now, if it is 4 cubits in a span, look at 6 feet 9 inches. But if you change this value to 6 cubits in the span, it goes to 9 feet 9 inches. You see? Okay, so one book says that, and the other book says that. Okay, so which is true? Which is true? That's the question. Now let's look at the Septuagint. Okay, this is the Bible that it's another version of. It's not the Masoretic text. It's the Septuagint. Okay, now what did the Septuagint say about his height? Same verse right here. And there went a mighty man. See, now they don't call him a champion, but he's a mighty man. So we all know what a man is. Not a giant. He's a man. He's from the army of the Philistines, you see. And his name was Goliath. And his height was, look at this, 4 cubits and a span. Okay, I just showed you 4 cubits in a span is 6 feet 8 inches. But that's the Bible that was written, they say, a long time ago. But now let's see what we gotta find out. Okay, we got who's telling the truth here. Okay, now let's look at it further. Now, the book of Josephus in the Antiquities of the Jews. If you don't know about Flavius Josephus, you should get his book and you should read his book because he tells you a lot of information. This was way back when he documented everything. Okay, now he also says there came down a man right here out of the camp. His name was Goliath. He was a big guy, and he was 4 cubits and a span in tallness. Okay, so we know what 4 cubits in a span is, 6 foot 7'5". So now we have evidence that version is correct. But is there more evidence that? Okay, let's look at this right here. Now, there's the thing called the Dead Sea Scrolls. Okay, now there's text in there too. Okay, and look at this. The Dead Sea Scrolls are frequent agreement with the LLX. That was that Septuagint I showed you. Josephus's biblical text has been demonstrated beyond doubt. So that Septuagint and what's in the Dead Sea Scrolls is um, agreement. Okay, so now we got a problem because LLX says he was 4 cubits in the span. Same with Josephus. Now, what did the Dead Sea Scrolls say? The Dead Sea Scrolls say. This is the Dead Sea Scrolls he's talking about. You see how right here? Okay, now he calls him a champion, which is correct, but he was a man. It was a man. Out of the Philistines, he was 4 cubits and a span right here. 4 cubits and a span. See how they had to cross the 6 out? Because they know that that's the difference between what was written that you see in the Masoretic text, like in verses what's found way back when they preserved the words. Okay, so now we got a problem. So I got 3 points here that show you that he was 4 cubits in a span, which is 6 feet 9 inches. Okay. Now, why would they do this? Because they dramatize the story. They want to tell you about they want you to think that, see, there's mystery going on. And when you have to start learning the truth when it comes to the mystery, especially with giants, especially with mythology, they want to get you off track to see who these champions or these mighty men that are on the earth, because there still is mighty men on the earth. And they want you to think it's some kind of imaginary creature of ridiculous height. But then you got people, you tell somebody, oh no, they said that, Amos said he was they were as tall as cedars. You get everybody trying to, but let's go to Amos real quick. I just want to address that because, when you're as tall as a cedar, or you're as strong as an oak, that's not literal. I mean, that right here, let's look at it real quick. Yet destroyed, I am an Amorite. Okay, the Amorites were known to be a mighty people whose height was like the height of cedars. Now, there's talking about their great. When you see the height, when they talk, and even in the book of Enoch, when they talk about the height of somebody, they're talking about their greatness. They're not talking about this guy's the biggest, tallest a cedar tree. But people, they see this and they say, oh, look, he was so tall. He was like the height of a cedar. But what about this? And he was as strong as the oaks. Okay, so that just tells you that he's using an oak tree, which is strong wood, to show you how strong he was. Just like he's using a cedar, which was a tall tree, to show you how tall he was. So they're using trees to show you the continents of the people, to show you, but they're not saying that that's their physical attribute. You have to understand that. Okay. Now, when you look at these verses, like when you look at the cedars of Lebanon, like we know that they use cedars for as an example. They use trees all through the Bible, but right here, let's look at some other examples. Like here, the righteousness flourish like the palm tree and grow like the cedar in Lebanon. So the righteousness is like the cedar in Lebanon, not their physical height. Not their physical height. The trees of the Lord are watered abundantly, the cedars of Lebanon that he planted. Okay, so now they're going to grow. Okay, behold, the Assyrian was a cedar in Lebanon, beautiful branches, and for a shade, and of towering height. Right here, so it's top among the clouds. So you're saying that this Assyrian man was as tall as the clouds? I mean, that's not what it's saying. It says their height of greatness. Because that's the height of greatness. You can go on and on in this book. It's their height of greatness. So when you read, so you have to get the correct interpretation. You have to know that when you read 1 Samuel, you have to get out of that this was a giant. And they'll tell you, well, look, man, he was called, he had a weaver's beam, it says here, that weighed 600 shekels of iron. Like, okay, 600, well, okay, 600, now it sounds like a big number, okay, 600 shekels of iron, okay, so, 600, right here, 600 shekels of iron, okay, how much did it weigh? It weighed 15 pounds, okay, yeah, okay, so he had a 15-pound, which is pretty decent. But could a man handle 15 pounds? Yes. Could a 6'9" bulky man, he's probably was well in the 300-pound zone, muscular. Could he handle 15 pounds? I mean, yeah, I would think so. I mean, I would think so. So, you know, we got to start here. Start here when you want to figure out what the lie that they told you. And you have to go through the book of Enoch. You have to go through all the books. And even when they, the word Nephilim, which means bully and tyrant. Even in Genesis 6, there's another false thing that they want to tell you, that angels came down and they birth like these creatures of ridiculous height, which were giants. But it's not really true. They were bullies and tyrants. They were tyrants on the earth. So we got that is the key to these books. You have to get out of that mythology. I know it's really, really amazing to think about mythology, but you got to get out of that mythology, and we got to get the correct interpretation. We have to move on from there, and we have to grow from there. But anyway, if you like this video, please like and subscribe. Thanks for watching.